Hey there everyone, it is Steve, and it is time once again for another Remington's Ramblings. I've got my next Transformers review video rendering, so I've got time to burn. Alright, so, more stuff out of the notebook. I'm just going to see if I can choose some really random stuff. Alright, first, oh, this is an interesting one. Being the first person to fart in a new chair. this you when you go to Office Max or Office Depot or whatever, they have they got the computer desks set up and also the computer chairs. You walk in there and you sit down and it's like a new chair kind of, but you wonder, how many other people have sat in this very same chair. And sometimes I think, this is like a new chair, but how many times have people farted in this chair? If you go into someone's house, and there's like a chair or a couch there, it's pretty much guaranteed that it has already been farted into, probably several times. But it's this weird kind of wonderful feeling when you are like the first person to fart into a new chair. This first crossed my mind when I was in the military. They had just built a brand new complex for us to work in. I mean, it was brand new. Everything was new. The building was new. The desks were new. The computers were new. And the chairs were new. They had just, they'd been assembled and put in there. I mean, a lot of those chairs, no one had even sat in them yet. So, we walk in there. You can still smell the fresh carpet, the fresh paint, the new plastic smell, everything. So you go in there, and I pulled out this chair, and I sat down on it, and I looked around, and it's a big, huge room. It's a massive room, and there's no one around, so I'm just like, just let out a fart. And I'm like, you know what? I am the very first person to fart in this chair. It was a special feeling being the first person to fart in that chair. It was christened. It had been broken in. Yeah, that's just one of the weird, random things that goes through my mind, Just how wonderful it is to be the first person to fart in that chair. Does anyone else ever think about stuff like that? Probably not, but maybe. Who knows? Oh, brother. Okay. How about next we have, the story about how I bought my saxophone. Okay. I have said in the past, I think it was like the Nintendo, the video about how I got my Nintendo. We had the Nintendo contract, all the things that I had to do in order to play Nintendo. One of them was that I had to practice for at least 30 minutes on my clarinet, and I hated that clarinet. Now, when I was a kid, I really wanted to play the saxophone. I mean, I just loved how the saxophone looked. It was this big, shiny brass instrument, I guess, my fans are like, my parents are fans of Kenny G. So, I heard a lot of saxophone music growing up. And I'm like, what is that instrument? My parents said, it's a saxophone. They show me a picture, and it's this big, shiny brass instrument. I'm like, wow, that looks really nice. I'd like to be able to play that someday. So I was going into 5th grade when my mom wanted to put me in band. Now, before then, all the years before, they had a band in elementary school. You had to be in 5th grade to get into it. It was a 5th grade only thing because it was kind of like getting you ready for middle school band. Well, the year that I was going to be starting 5th grade, they cut the budget. And one of the things that was cut was the music program. And my mom was not happy. But, she still wanted me to be in a band. And so she found a music teacher that was willing to teach band, and she put me in there, and there was only one other person in that band. I mean, it was like a 2-person band. There was myself, with the saxophone, and then there was this girl, I think her name was Jennifer White. Jennifer White, and she was playing the flute during practice. During practice. Just imagine trying to hear a flute over a saxophone. It was impossible. Impossible, I tell you. That music teacher had the hardest time trying to hear Jennifer White playing the flute over my blowing into the saxophone. You know, it was that was just insane. But I guess I don't know where or why did this happen, but we went to like this rec center before school had started, and they had like all these instruments just laid out on all these tables, and it was to show people the instruments and what was available, and basically what instruments were available to rent and to play. So my mom and my dad took me over there. And, of course, I wanted to play the saxophone. So I head straight over to the saxophone. I'm like, wow, it's so nice. It's so shiny. It looks so awesome. And I'm looking at it, and I guess like my parents heard how much it cost to rent a saxophone. Because, it cost too much to buy it. It was easier to rent. But, it still cost a lot of money to rent it. So my mom starts looking around at other stuff, and she says, "Hey Steven, come over here and look at this. Look at this clarinet. It's almost the same as a saxophone." And the thing she didn't say was that it was also much cheaper to rent than a saxophone. I looked at it. I just looked over at it, and it's like this black plastic thing, and I'm like, "No, I'm not interested. I want the saxophone." So my mom, she relented, and we got the saxophone. We went over to the music store that sold and rented instruments, and so they rented me the saxophone, got me the music book that I needed, and off I went to the 2-person band. Now I learned very quickly that in order to play an instrument, you had to practice the instrument. Now the music teacher, this was like an after school thing, so this ate into my free time going to this class. Before it was part of school, now it was after school. So not only did I have to spend time after school at band practice, I also had to spend time at home practicing the instrument, and that just ate into even more of my free time. So very quickly I learned to just hate playing the saxophone. Pretty much any instrument in general, but because it was the saxophone at that time, I learned to hate playing the saxophone. I just hated having to practice it. I mean, it was so annoying having to blow out the same boring ass song from this beginning songbook over and over again, day after day. So finally, after a year, I was just tired. I was done. I wanted to play the saxophone. I had tried. I could play some basic songs, but by the time the 5th grade was over, I was done. I didn't want to play anymore because I just didn't want to have to practice, put all the time into it. My mom, on the other hand, she wasn't going to hear any of it. She wanted me to continue practicing. She wanted me to learn how to play this thing. So 6th grade rolls around, getting ready for 6th grade, and she says, "Okay, you are going to be in band," because 6th grade had an actual band. Middle school had a band, and I was going to be in it, whether I liked it or not. And not only that, but my mom didn't want to have to shell out all of the money that it would cost to rent a saxophone for an entire school year. So she said, "You're going to be playing the clarinet." I didn't have a choice. I was going to be in band, and I was going to play the clarinet. I hated that clarinet. I freaking hated that clarinet. I hated playing it. It's a stupid instrument. But, so I played this thing all through 6th grade, and we had a really nice music teacher. Mr. Asbury, he was this awesome band teacher. Loved that guy. So, it's, I make it through the year. Then the summer vacation between 6th and 7th grade, my mom, comes into my room one night and she says, "You know what, Steven? If you really don't want to be in band next year, I'm not going to make you." And I'm like, "Yes, I don't want to be in band." And she's like, "Okay." 7th grade is upon us. And my mom comes to my room and says, "Okay, Steven, get in the car. We're going to go down to Owen's Music to rent you your clarinet." I'm like, "I'm not going to be in band." And she says, "Yes, you are." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. You totally said that if I didn't want to be in band next year, I didn't have to. And so I don't want to. I don't want to do it." And she says, "I never said that." To this day, she still denies it. She still denies saying that I didn't have to be in band if I didn't want to. So, lo and behold, I turn up 7th grade with a freaking clarinet. At this point in time, there were 2 middle schools in my hometown. 2. All right? There was the main campus, which had 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and I wasn't at main campus. I was at the secondary campus. And when I went there for 6th grade, it was like an experimental middle school, because it was basically, there were just so many people in middle school, they needed extra room. So basically, my middle school was nothing but 6th grade, just as an experiment. Well, when 7th grade started, they were like, "Well, it was a successful experiment, so we're going to expand it to 6th and 7th grade." So I was back at the secondary campus for 7th grade, but Mr. Asbury, the really awesome band teacher, he was going to be at the main campus full time. So he couldn't come down and teach band for one period. It was unfortunate, because not only was he an awesome teacher and we lost him, we got this one lady to be the band teacher. And she was a mean old witch. She wasn't old, but she was a fucking bitch. I hated her. She would scream and yell at us at the top of her lungs as if like we couldn't do anything right. I mean, seriously, like the door to the band room would be open as we were in there playing, and she would be screaming at us at the top of her lungs. And I remember one day, band class was finally over. Oh, by the way, I was back on the clarinet, of course. Band class is over. I walked out because next period is PE. And PE met right outside the band room. So I packed up my freaking clarinet and I went out there to PE, and my friend, I think his name was Sammy, was like, he just finished PE. He was walking by. He's like, "Man, what do you guys do in there to her? 'Cause she's always screaming at you. Do you really piss her off that much?" And I'm like, "Dude, she just freaking screams at us." One time, she's fucking yelling at me, and so I yelled back at her. I'm like, I yelled whatever it was I yelled, and she's like, "Don't you yell at me! Yelling at me is like cursing." I'm like, I should have said it, but I didn't. But in my mind, I'm saying, "Then you've got the dirtiest mouth I have ever heard." Fucking hated her. I wanted her to die. But anyways, so 7th grade band was not pleasant at all. 6th grade band, we had a lot of people in there for band. 7th grade, the class number was pretty much reduced by half. And pretty much most of the people that were in there in 7th grade dropped out just because they hated that band teacher so much. They were lucky enough to have parents that said, "Oh, you don't want to go to band? The teacher's being a bitch? Fine. We'll switch you classes." And so we lost a bunch of people. So it became a very small class that she would just scream at. Hated her so much. And so by the time that it was over, it was myself and I think 3 other people in the class, a 4-person band, and she was just yelling at us. 8th grade rolls around. I'm like, "Mom, I don't want to play in the band anymore." too bad, playing in band. So, once again, guess what? I'm on the freaking clarinet. So, we go, so, they're not going to have 8th grade at the secondary campus. It's just going to be 6th and 7th grade. So, finally, I'm at the main campus, 8th grade, the end of middle school. And we finally have Mr. Asbury as the band teacher again. It is so awesome to have this really nice guy. And the band is huge. It's huge. And, they actually have a drum set there. Because before, the people that were on drums, they just had like the practice pads, like that's this big. And it was just a pad, and you would hit your drumsticks on this pad. You just hear. It wasn't even a freaking drum set. They didn't have one, but they had drum sets at at the main campus middle school band. So we finally had some actual percussion back there, actual drums. It's really awesome. So. And it was a big room and a lot of people in there. So we finally had a band, played clarinet throughout the entire year, finally was done, and I was done with middle school. I was going to be starting 9th grade high school freshman year. And I go up to my mom, and I say, Mom, I am not playing in the band next year. I am not going to be in the high school band. My mom was trying to push me to do all this stuff. She wanted me to be in the middle school jazz band, which met after school. That didn't happen, thankfully. So I said, Mom, I am not going to be in this in high school band. And she said, okay. She finally relented. She said, no, I don't have to do it if I didn't want to. And she actually kept her word this time. So I didn't have to be in the band. Well, so throughout all of high school, no band, started college, didn't play an instrument, went into the military, changed dorms a few times. Finally, I'm in the Global Hawk dorm, which is the newest dorm, nicest dorm. And I'm looking around, at this stuff on eBay one day, and I don't know why this crossed my mind, but I just said, you know what? I started thinking back about band and stuff, and I said, you know what? I wonder how much it costs to buy a saxophone. I mean, if my parents had bought me a saxophone, at least I could have played that. I could have played an instrument that I had wanted to play instead of an instrument that they made me play because it was cheaper to rent. So I started looking on eBay, about how much a saxophone would cost, and I found all these different saxophones. They had ones that were brass. They had ones that were silver. That were silver plated. That were nickel plated. They had ones that were green, red, black. So finally I'm like, you know what? I've got money. It would be nice to be able to play the saxophone again. Just because I wanted to now. If I didn't want to practice, I wouldn't have to. If I did, I could. So I'm looking at all these instruments that they have, and finally I decide on this one. I go ahead and I buy it, and then I sit there and wait for it to be delivered. And I wait, and I wait, and I wait. And the thing was shipped through UPS, so I have the number, the tracking number. And it kept saying, in transit. It was like, that it was the town right next to the Air Force Base. It said it was there, in transit. So I'm wondering, why the heck are they not delivering it to me, UPS delivered to all the other dorms. Why not this one? Well, this dorm was like brand new. So finally, I called up UPS, and I was finally able to get like the cell phone number of the guy who drove the truck onto the base. And I'm like, hey, I've been sitting here for like an entire month waiting for like a package to be delivered. Why haven't I gotten it yet? And he said, oh, are you in this new dorm? I'm like, yeah. And he said, we don't know if we're allowed to go there. I'm like, you were contracted to deliver packages. How could you not know that you're allowed to go here? Like, I don't know. So finally, he said, okay, I'm going to be on the base next day at, from this time to this time. So call me at this time. So I called him up. He said that he was parked in this parking lot. So I got my car, drove over there, pulled out this package, this long package, because, it's a saxophone in a carrying case inside of a box. Pulls it out, gives it to me, I sign for it, take it home, I'm like, yes, I finally have my saxophone. So I open up the box, open up the case, and the saxophone is inside like this this cloth bag inside the case. So I open it up, pull it out, and it's broken. It's brand new from the factory, and the thing is broken. How long did I wait for the damn thing and it's broken? So I gotta package the thing back up, call up UPS, contact the guy who I bought it from on eBay, the company that I bought it from on eBay, and said, hey, this thing, is broken. I need to return it to you for a new one. So they're like, okay, shipping, just do a return thing. So I called up, the UPS guy saying, hey, I need this package, picked up to be returned to sender. So I got it shipped back there, and then I'm waiting for my new saxophone to show up. Now, this is right before I was going to be going to Travis Air Force Base to have back surgery. Major back surgery. And I am just hoping that my saxophone is going to arrive before then, because I am going to be lying in bed for like at least a week afterwards, just in freaking pain. I'm hoping that the saxophone will be delivered before then. Do you think it was? Of course not. Why would it be? So it doesn't get delivered before then. I go to Travis, I get put under, I go under the knife, I get my back surgery, I get driven back. There I am, lying in bed the day after I got back from the freaking hospital, and here comes a shadow past my window, and then on the door. UPS! Fuck! I can't get out of bed. At least, I can't get out of bed before, and get to the door before he leaves. So I see the shadow start to go past across the window, and I start banging on the window. And he stops, and I'm like, hey, hold on a second. I'm gonna come to the door. Okay. So I grab these two canes that I have, and I drag myself out of the bed, and I'm hobbling towards the door on a pair of canes in like freaking my underwear. I get to the door, I drag it open, there's the UPS guy, and there's me in my freaking underwear. So, and he kind of brings it and puts it down on the floor in there, and I sign my name on the sheet saying that I had received it. And he leaves. I'm kind of hobbling along with my two canes and kind of pushing this box along with my feet. I get it into the room. I'm able to get it up onto the bed, open the thing up, open up the case, and finally, I have my saxophone. Brand new from the factory, unbroken. Finally, it's about damn time. And you know what? I have never played it. Not once. I have not even put it together. But that's the story of how I got my saxophone. And I know that someday I will put it together and I will play it, or at least attempt to. So, I'm well past my 20-minute mark. It's coming up at 24 minutes here. So anyways, if any of you have stories about how you actually bought your own instrument and tried to learn how to play it, or farting in brand new chairs, go ahead and leave a message in the section below. That's all I have here this time, and I am signing out.